And most recently, I have been privileged to help bring a book to life on Marianne Topham. And I think it's great that we're here. This was very much Marianne's book. Topham's Hotel was a family hotel that she ran for a large part of her life, and it's literally down the road from Ebury Street. And she was very much, as we're going to discover, she was very much a Chelsea girl. This is her manor. And the purpose of the book, A Painter's Perspective, and of this evening is to really celebrate her life, work, and also her magic. She had almost like an intangible aspect to her work, which, as we're going to discover, kind of elevated what she did above her peers. And various people, and there'll be some people in the room who didn't know her at all. There'll be some who are delighted to have her sons, Mark, Justin, daughter-in-law, Holly here this evening, as well as other members of the family. And also a lot of people who knew and loved her and worked with her, including Nina Handel, our host.
Interesting.
And of course,
all Charles' secrets are going to come out. Things are shot by
and Emily Topham and Kate Earl, or Topham Earl, and they also had a very special relationship with Marianne in the sense that she was always part of the Topham Earl family. And I want to start this evening really talking about Marianne, and before we talk about her work, talk about her as a person. And you know, we all know that collaborating with people is about more than purely a sort of professional relationship. It's very much about something else. And
it's happened again.
We should just all watch them. It's Marianne. I think we should turn the lights down a bit so that they look better.
so I don't know which between Nina and Emily, which you worked with her the longest, might have.
I think because I'm so old, I obviously wouldn't have done an office. And poor Emily was with the child, but I'm sure.
So what were your memories of her as a person?
I think basically laughter. When she came into the shop or the office or whatever, it was just joy. So I think that was my long memory. And then of course we sat down and there was this piece of paper and you tell her a bit about the plan, and then she started a tiny piece of paper. She started, one end, and suddenly this room would come out that you were imagining, and that was really the magic of it all. And then you know, because she knew everything, you'd say, oh God, I suppose I want to have another of those Paddington lampshades. And she said, well, how about you try? And so you'd go on, because she knew everything, what textile we were using, and sometimes she said, can I have a bit of this fabric? And she'd go away with all the cuttings. And this room just appeared. And actually, once we showed it to town, that was a sold deal, nobody argued. And the other thing is, the only slightly awkward thing was she'd say, oh, what about do you want a bergère? Oh, it's through a fantastic bergère, of course you'd never find it. So when the client said, I want like that, there was no chance of getting one. It was always just magic.
And Kate and Emily, Marianne's work in the office She was very much sort of part of
She was either in the office or at home with me or at home with Kate. I mean, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, probably 2 to 3 days a week, and staying over, and then so it meant 3 dinners with Marianne, joy, heaven, and then getting up in the morning and walking the dogs, and then work. And she was a real workaholic. I mean, she really pumped out those perspectives. And
part of our team. I mean,
she was so much part of our team, and she was always entertaining all the team down in West Wittering, and she felt like, and everybody adored her,
bringing
absolutely.
tulips for everybody to put on their desk.
Yes.
In a big plastic bag.
Yes.
And she had a sort of artistic pedigree that she was very proud of.
Yes.
And it's two, a father and son, Victorian painters.
Yes. And she really was.
Both called Francis, confusingly.
But they had initials, FW Topham, and I believe that the archive of one of them is at Eton actually, and at Eton College, and I know that she wanted to have an exhibition of them or go and see them. So in fact, that might be the next thing on the list of things, because she would, she really cared about that, and she felt she had an artistic gene, and she very much hoped it went to her grandchildren, which it has. Guys,
No pressure.
No pressure. But she did feel that, and she felt the sort of weight, not the weight, the joy actually of knowing that it was part of her heritage.
When you look at that picture around the corner, that encapsulates it, doesn't it? That wonderful smile. Well, unfortunately,
She was a life enhancer, massive life enhancer, and because of the life enhancing, wonderful way that she was, it sort of it made the project so much better.
Yes.
Because she brought joy to the process so much, and
Endlessly enthusiastic.
always,
And so even if you were so rather dreaded the whole thing, by the time she finished the picture, you thought, actually, I think you can carry on.
Yes, exactly.
But she was a real sort of polymath, wasn't she? Because as well as running this hotel, tell us a bit about Topham. I mean, did you ever go there? Would you tell you stories about it?
I went there, you went there, you did some work.
But I did something because, I came in and it was sort of slightly, you went up, because it was 3 not very big houses all in a row, or 4, or God knows how many. I think probably the neighbours always rather worried that you might just take over the next house. But anyway, so you went in some slightly rickety stairs, I remember, and we went into this, I suppose what would be termed the front, first floor, one of the, she said, I've just got this wonderful idea, I'd turn this into sort of wonderful dining room. And so she said, would you sort of dream it up and I'll paint it? And so suddenly this room, which was full of packing cases and boxes and I don't know, God knows what, suddenly it turned into this rather wonderful magical room. And then you thought, well, actually, why not? Does it rather marvelous?
And was it that it was a spy room or something?
I think so, yes.
That's right. During the war, there used to be all these, particularly female spies, they used to meet there. And I'll have to get the full story later, because she told me about it, and actually she then gave my husband a book about one of the sort of female spies, and in it was all these cuttings about Tophams, and I think she wanted him to write a book about it, and I think he probably should. That could be point number 3 on my list after the exhibition that Eton College to explore that.
And do we know what precipitated this move into painting interiors? Because it's a very specific, there aren't that many people who have excelled in it. I mean, in Sweden there are amazing people like Carl Larsson, there was a Russian painter called Alexander Sabrakov, and also, Nina, you're aware of someone called Walter Gay.
Walter Gay, that's much further ago. Well, they're interior portraitists, they're called.
Yeah.
And there were actually quite a lot, I think. Hugh Robson was another one, I think. And, he used to do sort of masses people that had pansy heads, and they were sort of uniforms. It was really funny, actually, wandering about.
Yeah.
But you were actually on Friday. But this was, I mean, the tragedy is now nobody comes up to it. Nobody can draw it. Oh, there's one of my Christmas cards.
So the reason this is I think it shows that she was about, she had incredibly sort of flexible talents. She could turn it's I think we've got some.
It's
Go
around
back,
it.
go back one.
Yeah.
All those cards
Yeah.
were such fun.
Yes, yeah,
No,
exactly.
then forward that there. So good.
And she was also, she sort of
That's
created.
me. My daughter Vale, not much on. Thanks, Marianne.
So now we're just going to talk through some of the work that she's been doing, and I think that what one has to remember, I think, about her, what was very clear from the interviews I did with the people she worked with and preparing the book, is that she was at heart the most extraordinary draftsperson,
Yes.
wasn't she?
Yeah.
Which you can see particularly in a black and white, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of what we did was just pencil perspective.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily go on. And she could read any elevation. She would just look at it to know exactly what was, how it sloped and where it came in and out and what the proportion was.
But also it's kind of shorthand, she didn't sort of overlabour things.
No.
She created
It
an
was very,
impression
very
of something.
sketchy. Yeah, very
I think this is fantastic. I mean,
Well,
it's
this,
huge.
I mean, yes, we rushed through aspects and then actually in a way, I don't know, the probably wouldn't do it, but it would have been so fantastic if it had looked like that.
Yeah.
And then on top of these really incredible examples of draftsmanship, she then kind of layered atmosphere, for want of a better description. I mean, she could turn her hand to anything. This is a really great example.
So this is an example of what Nina was saying about when you start off and think, oh my God, what the hell are we going to do with this room? This was for Raymond Blanc at the Manoir, and he was mad. I mean, he is mad. He's absolutely madly talented and creative and extraordinary. And this was just a little attic room, and his dream of this room. We look at the fish, and the this and the that. There was absolutely no holding back, and I was horrified. I said, God, this is going to be the most horrible room in the world. And but actually, once she started drawing it and things, you know,
You want
it
to
was.
say that?
Well, I mean, kind of. I'm not sure. What do you think? His and hers. He had his and hers makeup area, very ahead of the time, and it was all a bit weird and bizarre. But you know, he did the dreaming.
Yeah.
I did the talking, and Marianne just went boom, and then the next thing you know, it's that. And then he sees it. He gets so excited and thinks it's absolutely wonderful, and then. On the back of that, then convinces someone else to pay for it. You know, they put it in his marketing material, and then bang. So that was a crazy room at the Manoir, and it got built.
And she.
Except, by the way,
Yeah.
fish tanks did not get built. I just remember that there's some disease you can get from water. What's it called? Something disease.
Oh,
Nice.
No, it's not. It's something else.
Something else.
They said Legionnaires' disease. They said everyone who slept in that would end up getting Legionnaires' disease. And that was not going to be possible. Okay, so you might think we put in some of our nastiest projects on purpose, just to show to get the stories, because this makes us laugh, because this was in Moscow and it was actually a brothel. And it was, we thought it was just a casino and a bar. But what happened was we drew the bar and all its maps, and we thought it was wonderful with the leather and everything else. And then we found out that it actually, if you leant on it, it sort of spun round. You ended up in this horrible I'm not joking. So look at the frightful sort of woolly carpet and things like that. So I just want to get it straight. My point is that darling, wonderful Marianne, as much as she had the best taste, she could also have a laugh and do all of this. And neither of these, I've got to tell you, did actually ever get built. Rather along the lines of Asprey's. This did get built.
And that's for private.
That's a private client, and we've just finished the project. And she did this, I think, in probably 2022, maybe, and it looks incredibly like that. It's just finished, and that job was the last big job that we were doing just before she sadly got ill, and we started off down at Draker where I live, and of me saying, well, Marianne, we've got to do, 12 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, 9 reception rooms, 2 downstairs loos, 1 boot room, 1 this, 1 pub, 1 nightclub, 1 cinema, 1. And she went, oh, fine, absolutely fine, where should we start?
But she could also touch, she had this ability to turn her hand to any style, didn't she? I mean, she could do classic, and then she could
That's
do
the
very
point.
kind of.
Yeah.
But also crucially, what she did. So this is a really good example of how she brought spaces to life by really focusing on the amazing finishes.
But also more than that, I'll tell you what it was, that she influenced the design. I mean, we're okay at what we're doing. But she would say, what about this, or what about that? And she'd draw it so well that we would refer to it all the way through the projects. Have we got the proportion right? Have the joiners got it right? Look back at what Marianne drew. And so she really influenced the design. And I remember that room was in New York, and we drew the sort of whole library bit together, and then she was the one who said, look, wouldn't it be cool to have the sliding glass doors, which are so cool. I don't know, I still think they're cool. We did that years ago. I mean, that must have been in the, I don't know, really long time. Yeah.
But when she gave you that bit of advice, she was so sort of quiet.
Yes.
She would just sort of
Yes.
dropped it in, like,
Yeah.
and of course it was fabulous.
But do you think because she specialised absolutely at the top end of the market, working with brilliant decorators, she almost just accumulated some amazing depth and breadth of knowledge that she was able to call on, which was an incredible resource, I guess.
Well, I think that, but also actually when you do actually draw it, things come out, or come about, or need to come about, that maybe even us who think we're,
Okay.
sort of should know what we're talking about, don't quite, you're sort of so busy doing other things like with this, the piping and the blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, yes, and when it comes to life like that,
Yeah.
it does make you suddenly think, oh God, we've got to address this.
And then the joy is if you put that energy in at the beginning and you've worked it out, you see, and she would rub things out. Sometimes you do things and it doesn't work, does it? And she'd say no, then you rub it out and then start again. And then once you've got to that stage and you've put in the energy, actually, you can then almost sit back and say to your sort of team, if you're lucky to have a team, and say, look, make it look like that.
Yeah.
And you just, and then the project then goes.
Yeah.
So this was one that we did, I think Chantal is here, with a lovely mad house in London. We took the hollow, sliced the back off it and made it all glass. And this is just so clever the way she shows. Do you see the two little levels of the thing? And
Do you think there was an element to which she also inspired, she got clients on site?
Totally.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's such an incredibly useful tool to be able to be, huge privilege to be able to be in a room which is maybe years of being even built,
Yeah.
and to know exactly how you're going to
Because
feel
there were a
in
lot
that
of
room.
pieces of fabric and photographs of drawings of chairs and things that they can't see it because they don't have that vision.
yeah, exactly.
They can imagine having lunch there. can't they?
Well, that's got a big opening between the two. So that's the drawing room and the dining room, and that's in a big house in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
But it was just all very clever, the way the pickup of the colour and that, she's just bloody brilliant. That's Sardinia. My dream to have the outdoor kitchen overlooking the sea.
And here we are, I think, from Sardinia to Ireland. Is
Exactly.
that right?
Yeah.
And this is one of your projects.
Yes, so rather a sort of falling to pieces, very romantic castle in Ireland, which had been inherited by the next generation, and the mother-in-law had sort of gone off with most of the good stuff. So we had to make it feel fresh and young for them with a young family. So the bed existed with the hangings, but adding the variable wallpaper and contemporary lighting, and sort of moving all the rugs and furniture around. We did a real changing rooms and that. But she did a lot of this. This was the first drawing that she did for me for this house, and then we ended up really going through the whole house.
So,
You moved
Really
everybody's
pretty.
furniture.
Moved everybody's furniture. And this again we did with Chantal, which is a wonderful, typical Notting Hill garden square. Again, a young family who's inherited quite a lot of antiques, but wanted a mix. So I think this really evokes how clever she was at making you realise how sort of modern and old works together. Because there are chintz curtains there, but lots of colour and texture and contemporary rugs.
and also how the lights.
And how the light, exactly, I was going to say when I was looking at this earlier, how the light influences a room. Really, really good at that. She was brilliant at that.
Another example there.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a arts and crafts house in the Surrey Hills, which had been bought by a Scandinavian couple actually moved there and sent the children to school in the country, and it was a mix of modern mid-century Scandinavian furniture. But this was a multi-purpose room. It was off the kitchen, so husband wanted somewhere that he could go and sit and read the newspaper without the children screaming. In fact, we ended up putting a games table made by Goose between the windows, so you could play chess and things there. Yeah. And again, very, very light. So, and you can see that how the light reflects.
So have a playground showing us in front of Nina. What if she's going to say that's it?
Yeah. That's right. You critique.
Yeah. It was one of the weekend in Denmark and
Yes.
Norway, Sweden, and it was just extraordinary. Your eye very quickly gets into that sort of furniture.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
wonderful.
And this, I think, is Hall's Bank.
This is Hall's Bank, which is very historic and traditional. The partners were very averse to any sort of change at all, and it was quite a sort of feat to persuade them to do things. So Marianne, again, her ability to draw something architecturally so perfectly.
Yes,
and
architecture.
Yeah, and
That's
then
important.
just show her just by lightening the panelling that had been there forever and cleaning the floor made such a difference. That was the main sort of bit we really needed to do. This is a house in Eden Square, which is I think probably one of the best projects I've ever done, which went on and on and on and on and on. And actually I was thinking the other thing that Marianne always did was she always drew a bunch of flowers into every, I always thought whenever she sketched a room, you always saw her drawing a vase of roses somewhere.
Did she always come to your office and bear bunches?
She
She
did.
always came.
Daffodils or stray tulips or whatever. Lovely things.
Chocolates.
And actually this house with lots of cake and cocktails. But this house was in a garden, a completely sort of hidden garden in Battersea where there had been an old factory. And I think the client fell out with a rather stroppy architect very early on. And so we had to do all the and the whole house was built from Marianne's drawings because we worked out all the detailing and all the finishes in the sketches that she did for the entire house. So these drawings were up in the rooms, which we often did when the building site was, you couldn't see what it was going to look like. We'd put them up and the builders would instantly feel, wow, gosh, this is actually quite
Builders
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's very useful.
And here we are.
This was a vast house on the Caspian Sea, which looks rather like a John Lewis at home from the outside. Needed quite a lot of help. And actually, this is a huge, like you were saying, Nina, that it started in the corner and it got bigger. I think it sort of ended up being about this big. This drawing, because the scale, those sofas are 5 meters long, so huge. And sort of, adding texture.
This is much cozier.
Yeah.
This is also Russia.
Is it?
And I was asked to do a dasha in Russia for a woman. I'd done a show house in New York, and she actually bought the show house, and then she said, would you come and do this house in outside Moscow? And it wasn't really a house, it was this sort of wooden thing, which actually was rather fun. And it was sort of quite scary because, you were going to Russia maybe 20 years ago. And anyway, I took all sorts of wonderful things and we made these rooms. And the only thing that was rather upsetting was that there was a guard who guarded the place, obviously, or that was what he was meant to do. But I had been asked by a friend of Katia Galizin, was a friend of mine, she was teaching English to some bodyguard. And he apparently Maxine's in Moscow and said that I could join, I could have anything I wanted in Maxine. So there was a dining room, so I went and I thought, well, I tell you what, I'd get some things that would look on the table, like some delicious wine and stuff like that. Spread it by, and my friend who owns Volga Lenin did all the bedding and everything else. So it was all looking pristine, the wine was on the table, it was all very inviting. And we went home, and the guard was supposed to be guarding the place. Anyway, we came back in the morning, and I went into the dining, there was no wine, I said, pour it, put it away. And I called the girl who was with me there, and I said, what did you do with the wine? She said, I haven't done anything with the wine. I said, well, it isn't there. Anyway, we then went into the bedroom, there was a rather unpleasant, unmade bed. the guard had drunk both bottles of fallen asleep in bed, and then Scarwood, obviously, because I mean that was the end of his career. And so I was pleased to have this wonderful picture to pristine called the guard on loose. But it was quite fun doing it.
But that was also in a sense because one of the great benefits to having Marianne's work is that it preserves things for posterity.
Yeah.
Because actually, interiors don't always last. People move or whatever, and you know, it's a permanent record.
Yeah. Actually, funny you should say that, because when I was doing my book on Elsie Wall, all the photographs of her work, because it was in like 1910, were really quite grim. They were sort of, and not much was photographed. And I went through all her books, and I sat with this wonderful boy, and I said, oh my God, the chassis were French blue with rose-coloured blobs in the middle of it or something, or this was, and so he painted this room exactly the same way. But so from the rather boring books of Elsie's wonderful work, sort of suddenly they came alive again, and will remain as you know, as he painted them, and which was actually what she had done, and she was such a lively character. But when whoever it was, House of God in 1910 came and photographed the rooms, they were very sort of dull looking, and there was always a little bit, and you thought, God, I wouldn't want to stay here. And so I think that's another point to all this, because it looks as it did look when you walked in, rather than a photograph taken, you know, rather dull. This was the model. This was quite funny because I engaged a friend at one of the Royal Red Lacquer, and I went there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon to just make sure everything looked all right. And there was this other well-imbibed gentleman who said, "Oh, you're the interior designer." I said, "Yes." "Oh, you're on a bloody good job. We haven't changed it at all." Mushy pea green. Anyway, there we are. And this was one of the dining rooms. We put in some fake carpets. One of them threw something on it. Oops, up it went into the glorious flame. Not the room, but the bar. And this was English bar.
Where it's such a complex scheme, but she's managed to make it look incredibly coherent and beautiful. Fantastic. I suppose the big question that we need to address is, how does what Marianne did compare to, in the first instance, to CAD?
I mean, it's so different.
Yeah.
Because this has so much life, and then you can do a CAD drawing and a CGI, which it's getting better and better and better. But even though it's getting better, it never has the character anything like.
It's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this isn't flat. This is three
Yeah.
dimensions. In fact, we've just done. I'm doing this Kin care homes, and they were deeply into CAD, and I mean these rooms would come back, and you think, God, do I really think that would work? And then eventually I was so depressed that I got Marianne to do one or two of the rooms. And then they just said, this is completely different. And now we understand what we looked at. And now I'm not really a fan of CAD. We just got to, one of you grandchildren have got to
Keep going.
keep going.
Painting.
It's such an art.
Yeah.
And it's joy. And if you put joy into an interior design, into your projects, joy comes out of the other end.
Definitely. The happier the project,
Yeah.
the better the project. You know, the happier the process, the better the project, isn't it? For sure.
And even photography isn't ideal sometimes, because it can sort of sometimes suck the life out of it, or make
Yes,
it
I agree.
or as Simon Brown, who photographed, who's done quite a lot of work, you said once around me, and said, I sent him some photographs of interiors, and he said, the problem with these, they just look as though the cleaners just left. And I knew what he meant, you know, sometimes it can be too perfect.
Yeah. I remember photographing Fritz, and what I longed to do was photograph behind Fritz, because all the things he didn't like were behind him.
That's Fritz von Schullenberg.
Fritz Schullenberg, who was absolutely amazing, actually. But yes, and he said, you can't have that with the lampshades popping out of the tops of his head, or whatever, which was true, but I mean it wouldn't have ever happened.
But Nina, who was the one that you told me years ago, and I was quoting, you said, he used to go, don't breathe.
Oh yes, that was Andrea, yes. And then
Don't breathe.
he said it's going to rain, I was like, it won't rain.
You mentioned fun. Do you think that was part of the magic of Marianne? You know,
It was the magic of Marianne.
it was.
Yeah.
It was
She used to
magic.
arrive, she always used to keep her credit cards in her drawer.
Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious. She'd kept, but not one or two, like 12. And then it was just fun, and she was so brilliant with everybody in the office. She sort of made the office more happy, more fun. Definitely, in fact. I mean, Kate and I are very good at making up. Only when she was around, jollying everybody up and being so sweet and nice.
And she was known, I think, by her grandchildren as Pink Granny.
Pink Granny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was very pink.
Was that
Yeah,
she loved pink or she loved
She was
rosé?
very
or-
pink, she had pink, always rather chipped nails. She'd have a handbag, she had a pink plastic bag which came with her. Yeah.
She had that wonderful skin too.
Her Jo Malone rose Bradbury.
Yeah.
Yes.
She liked pink bubbles.
Red rose.
Yeah.
Pink bubbles, lots of champagne, lots of champagne. And wonderful, at the end of the day, you'd say, Marianne, would you like a glass of wine? Oh, it's a lovely
So really, in conclusion, I mean, obviously very multifaceted, and one can't generalise about what she did, but we've touched on the fact that she kind of managed to influence the design process through her kind of skill, charm, and instincts, but also created these wonderful things as you will see in the book, you know, which preserve your work and the work of the enormous roster of interior designers that she worked with. It would be quite nice to name check a few of them. You mentioned Tim.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Studio
Yeah.
Peak.
Yes, yeah.
Put your hands up,
I know.
please. Wendy Nichols from Colfax, Sybil Colfax. So she really did work with the best, and I hope that when you...
And they're all in the book.
They're all
That's
in the
the other
book.
thing, is that you'll see lots of other designers work in the book. It's not all just us.
And if you didn't have the good fortune to have met her, I hope that after this evening, and also having read the book, you will feel as though you did. And I'm so grateful for you all coming along to share your own memories of Marianne. And I'm sure, I hope that you'll be completely delighted with all of this.
Yes. Thank you, Liz.
And thank you very much to Nina for making this possible.
Well, that's lovely having a space, by the way. It's great. Very nice to welcome you all and see all the faces.
Thank you. Commercial plug. Books for sale.
And if anyone's got any questions about anything, just come and ask or shout out.
I just have one of my sorry, one of Marianne's sons, but we're obviously immensely proud of everything she achieved, but even prouder of the book. So thank you both to yourselves, Giles, and everyone else that contributed to it. I was just going to observe, Mum never seemed to get stressed at home, despite having a couple of demanding boys and demanding grandchildren and family. Did it ever come across at work that she was ever stressed, despite these amazing deadlines, and she could work through the nights or get up at 3, 4 in the morning to do things? It's just extraordinarily prolific sort of work.
Even when Ruby got attacked.
Yes, I just don't remember ever recall her being stressed about anything.
Very positive person.
I think it was because she made everything so beautiful. She was creating all the time.
And enjoyed what she did. Which
And
is
enjoyed
probably
it, yeah.
the lesson. Yeah.
And I think we're like in our business that we enjoy what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks to her. Yeah.
She's wearing pink.
She is wearing pink.
Hmm?